Welcome to the Microsoft Ignite Into Focus Infrastructure session. I'm Erin Chappell, and I lead the Azure Infrastructure Product and Design team. I'm a white woman with short brown hair, wearing a navy and floral blouse and dark jeans. Just as business transformation has accelerated, so have the pressures on you and IT. In a recent Economist study, 72% of respondents said the pandemic turbocharged their cloud journeys. I suspect you're all feeling this. Now, that same study confirmed employee engagement now tops many transformation agendas. To support all of this, you need scale, agility, and services that only cloud can provide. You have different workloads with different needs. Those you lift and shift, which are often more traditional applications, specialized workloads like SAP and high-performance computing that require optimized infrastructure, and the cloud-native workloads, which take advantage of modern technologies like containers and serverless or low-code. Now, chances are you're supporting all of these types of workloads on premises, in multiple clouds, and at the edge. And our ambitious vision is to be your partner across all of your workloads. And today, we'll take you through the tapestry of Azure solutions addressing the diverse needs of all these three types of workloads. And along the way, I'll be joined by several colleagues to announce new capabilities and demo the latest tech. Now, first up is Mary Williamson, who leads our customer sales team that specializes in cloud and innovation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary. I'm a Black woman with light brown skin, rocking curly hair today, a red shirt, and black jacket. I'm excited to join you. I have an opportunity to talk to hundreds of customers a year across the world, and I know they're going to be really excited to hear what we're talking about today.
Within the workloads I outlined, let's start with lifting and shifting traditional workloads to the cloud. These workloads typically enable core business functions, and you want to migrate to the cloud to optimize cost and reduce complexity. We support these workloads with cost-saving offerings like Azure Hybrid Benefit, which lets you use on-premises software assurance-enabled Windows Server and SQL Server licenses on Azure, and unique management capabilities like Azure Auto Manage, which simplifies IT operations through automation.
A good example of this is what the American Cancer Society did when the pandemic hit. To stay more agile, reduce costs, and adapt to remote work and digital fundraising, they accelerated their transition to cloud. Microsoft's partner Redap joined in the help, switching the nonprofit to an almost entirely cloud-based environment by moving 100 applications to Azure in under 9 weeks. This freed up time and funding so the American Cancer Society could put support more cancer patients, their families, and researchers.
And Mary, this is a common scenario. These traditional workloads continue to power significant portions of the enterprise, making the combination of agility and savings real. And agility is a key benefit of moving traditional workloads to the cloud, but also a fundamental benefit of the hybrid workplace. And with employee engagement topping transformation agendas, the scale and performance and high availability, as well as security, have never been more important. It really has been inspiring, Mary, to see how IT embraced this shift to remote everything during COVID. And as part of this, many of you have used Azure Virtual Desktop, which uses cloud to replicate employees' desktop experience on the devices that they're using. Its built-in access and security measures help you sleep at night and reduce costs by using your existing eligible Windows licenses. Now, one customer was telling me how they set the solution up in just minutes.
Yeah, Erin, it's been a real game changer throughout COVID-19. It's the only cloud-based virtual desktop infrastructure solution that's fully optimized for Windows 10 and 11, as well as Microsoft 365 and Teams.
Now, and one of the things I hear from customers as they're working to increase productivity and collaboration among a remote or hybrid workforce is that dynamic scaling is so critical. And to make things easier, we're launching the preview of the new auto-scale capability for Azure Virtual Desktop. It lets you easily scale up and down the session host based on needs and do it at scale. Now, before we see this in demo, I'd like to set up the fictitious company we'll be using throughout today's demos, Lamna Healthcare. They have thousands of employees, doctors, nurses, accountants, lawyers, healthcare, and IT staff who use an array of devices, workstations, shared kiosks, employee personal devices, alongside the dedicated medical devices like MRI machines. In this first demo, Eva will show you just how easy it is to schedule availability around peak workloads and pay only for the resources that Lamna needs. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name is Eva Seidel, and I will walk you through how Lambda Healthcare uses our latest feature, Autoscale in Azure Virtual Desktop, to optimize the deployment for cost and performance. Let's have a look. In the Azure portal, I navigate to Azure Virtual Desktop and select the Scaling Plans tab here. When I start from scratch, I need to ensure that I have the custom ABAC role configured so that the service can actually scale up and scale down. I start off by creating a new scaling plan, and I have all the basic information already entered, so I can focus with you on just the essentials. What is important is the time zone, as this dictates when the VMs are started up so that they are ready when I need them. I want to use as well exclusion tags in the case I perform maintenance on the VMs, because I don't want Autoscale to shut them down. When adding my first schedule, there are already presets that help me to go faster through the setup. As you can see here, the workdays are already pre-selected that I need. If I want to, I can create a schedule for each day of the week. In the ramp-up time, I keep the defaults, as this is when I want the VMs to be ready for my employees. And for the load balancing algorithm, I know that Breadth First distributes the employees across the existing VMs, and this helps to optimize for the logon experience. Later in the other phases, I will switch to Dev First because I want to optimize for cost. The next two parameters define how many VMs will be ready at the beginning of the day and when a VM should be started. For the peak hours, I will keep everything as is, and the peak hours are the time of the day where all my employees are productive. I keep Dev First for optimizing for cost, as said before. In the ramp down experience, that's the end of the day, I want to manage the log of experience for my users. In the off-peak hours, afterwards, I keep that first, so when employees come in, only the necessary amount of VMs are running. Now assign my schedule to host pools. And I can assign a schedule to one or multiple host pool where it makes sense. In this case, I will select the back office, move to the validation. When I'm satisfied, I create it, and it starts operating when finished. And this is how easy it is to set up Autoscale for your deployment to optimize for cost and performance. The feature is in public preview today. Try it now.
It's amazing to see how easy it is to ensure VM availability so employees can log into their devices from anywhere and then shut VMs down to save costs when they aren't needed. Azure Virtual Desktop is a great way to modernize your traditional VDI environments in the cloud. And it also works well with solutions from partners like Citrix and VMware.
Right, and we are expanding our co-investments with these partners and making it easier and faster for you to tap into the cloud. For example, Citrix recently announced support for PVS, their provisioning service on Azure. Now, Citrix admins can use familiar tools to easily manage both on-prem and virtual desktop deployments. With our partner VMware and VMware Horizon Virtual Desktop and Applications, customers can expand or migrate Horizon environments to Azure with minimal disruption to operations.
Now, Mary, let's shift focus from enabling people to enabling businesses. Most of you already know Azure is the best cloud to run Windows and SQL workloads. If you aren't already, make sure you're using Azure Hybrid Benefit and free extended security updates to get the lowest possible total cost of ownership to run Windows and SQL workloads on Azure. But what about Linux? Well, Linux is the fastest growing OS on Azure. Nearly 60% of Azure Compute core hours run on Linux, and these percentages just continue to grow monthly. And Azure Hybrid Benefit is helpful for Linux too. More and more customers are using it to migrate Linux workloads to Azure, like those running on Red Hat Enterprise Linux servers or SUSE Linux Enterprise servers.
That's right. A good example of this is global building materials provider Cemex. They had close to 60 SAP production systems running on-premise, and at times faced internal and external performance issues combined with expensive and time-consuming updates. Now, they're migrating their SAP applications to Azure along with SUSE Linux Enterprise servers because of Azure's combination of performance, security, scalability, and services.
For both Linux and Windows workloads, we have several new capabilities in Azure Auto Manage to help simplify and optimize IT management. Now, Azure Auto Manage automates operations to eliminate the need to discover, onboard, and configure certain Azure services.
First is the general availability of Extended Network for Azure, which allows new Windows VMs to preserve on-prem IP addresses while migrating. Second is the general availability of SMB over QUIC protocol, which lets customers access Windows file servers over untrusted networks and without a VPN. And last, now in preview, are new enhancements like custom configuration profiles and support for Azure Arc-enabled servers. This can give you more flexibility in managing Windows and Linux VMs because you can pick from a dozen Azure services to auto-manage those VMs.
Now, Mary, let's dive deeper into the fundamentals. Things like scale and performance and security, which are extremely beneficial to traditional applications, but benefit all types of workloads. And that's why I'm happy to announce the new virtual machine series that expand Azure's VM portfolio and deliver better price performance from the previous generation. The first two series generally available today are new Intel-based DV5 and EV5 VMs, which use Intel's latest Ice Lake processor in a hyper-threaded configuration. They can scale up to 96 vCPUs and provide up to 15% increase in performance. Now, the next two series, also generally available today, are the new AMD-based DAS V5 and EAS V5 VMs. These are based on AMD's Milan processor and now provide options without local disk storage at a lower price point.
And last but not least, watch for the upcoming preview of EBS V5 VMs. These are memory-optimized VMs that increase remote storage throughput by 300% compared to EV4 VMs. That's ideal for data-intensive workloads. And using this series, you can consolidate existing workloads on fewer VMs or on smaller VM sizes. We've also increased the throughput on Ultra Disk Storage, our highest performing disk, by 100%, making the combo of new EBS V5 VMs and Ultra Disk ideal for workloads that require high levels of performance.
Now, Mary, as customers run more mission-critical applications in Azure, they often ask how to best manage VMs at scale, right? Especially when they have put thousands of VMs together. And Azure VM Scale Sets is the answer. Beyond making it easier to manage a group of heterogeneous load-balanced VMs, it provides higher availability for security workloads. And today, we're announcing the general availability of the new flexible orchestration mode in Azure VM Scale Sets. It further simplifies this process by giving you full control of individual VMs within an actual scale set, so you can increase application resiliency at scale across thousands of VMs. Now that we've talked about VMs, let's turn to what's new in storage. When it comes to performance, it's not just about the compute power. Storage plays a critical role too. And as your data footprint grows and applications needs change, Azure Storage Services enable you to securely scale with the performance you need.
We're making on-demand disk bursting generally available today. This lets you boost disk performance above the provision limit to handle spikes in demand and then scale it down to optimize costs.
Yes, and then on-demand disk bursting is going to be particularly helpful for business-critical applications and workloads like OLTP systems, where it's important to ensure that certain level of performance even when you have those unexpected demands and spikes. We're also announcing the preview of live disk resize capability for Azure Disk Storage, which lets you dynamically increase disk capacity without downtime. Now, with it, you can deploy disks with the capacity and performance you need today, and then modify your disks as workload needs change.
When you're migrating to traditional applications to the cloud, network connectivity is critical to deliver a great experience to users securely. We have a few new developments that remove complexity for managing all network appliances needed to meet user demands.
Yeah, I'm excited. Today, we're announcing the preview of the new Gateway Load Balancer, which lets you automatically reroute traffic to healthy appliance instances and ensure both the reliability and high availability of your application. We're also announcing the preview of Azure Virtual Network Manager, which makes it easier to securely set up the virtual networks at scale and then centralize your network management. And Andrea will demo how it can help Lambda Healthcare centrally manage their complex networking configuration to keep their network infrastructure protected.
My name is Andrea Michael, and I am an Asian and white female currently wearing a light blue shirt and a gray cardigan. Lambda Healthcare wants to migrate their workloads of hundreds of applications directly to Azure. Even a simple network configuration error can cause major outages for their end users. And so let's see how Azure Virtual Network Manager can help them build out entire network topologies, apply security rules consistently across their whole deployment, and manage network configurations at scale with confidence and simplicity. Lambda's policies for their production environment applications are stricter than their testing environments, and all of their applications use a common set of services like DNS that are available in their hub network. And as the network admin, I decide to use Virtual Network Manager to connect all of Lambda's application virtual networks in their prod and test environments to the hub while still maintaining prod's network isolation requirements. And so here I'm going to create a Virtual Network Manager. So for the scope, we're going to select a subscription for the scope. And for features, we're selecting both connectivity and security admin features. And so our Virtual Network Manager will have the ability to create both connectivity and security admin configurations. And after creating that AVNM instance, now I will create 2 network groups. And network groups are just a logical collection of virtual networks. And so I'm going to create one for Lambda's prod VNets and another for their test VNets. And what we can do is we can use conditional statements to say, hey, I want all the virtual networks that have the name that contains prod and the VNets that are a part of the resource group that contains the name Ignite. And I want all of those VNets to be a part of this network group. So now as we evaluate, we can see that there are about 200 VNets that are Lambda's prod VNets, and they've been added to this network group for prod. And I will do the same for test. So now that I have created those 2 network groups, I'm going to go over to the configurations blade, and I'm going to add a connectivity configuration. And so Lambda's entire topology, what they desire is a hub and spoke topology. So we're going to name this configuration, we're selecting that VNet. And now we're going to add the network groups that we want to be a part of this hub and spoke architecture. And we're going to enable peering within both of those network groups so that the virtual networks inside have established peerings with one another. We've added that configuration successfully. So now that we've created a connectivity configuration, I'm going to go ahead and add a security admin configuration. And we're going to add a rule collection. And this will just encapsulate as many rules as you want for your security configuration. And we're going to have the target network group for this rule collection be the prod network group, since we are going to be creating a rule that blocks all HTTP traffic, inbound and outbound, for our prod network group VNets. And so now, in order to actually secure all 400 VNets that we have set up with AVNM, I have to deploy both configurations for connectivity and security admin. So let's start with the connectivity configuration. We select that we're having a connectivity configuration type for deployment. We're going to select our configuration and target it to our West US region, which is where we have created our Virtual Network Manager and all of our VNets. So now that the deployments have been successfully submitted, we can see that for West US, the connectivity configuration has succeeded. So I'm going to the networking blade in the Hub VM, and now clicking on the NIC, we can see the effective routes. And we can see that 400 peerings have been established between our 200 prod VNets and 200 test VNets. Using the capabilities of AVNM to centrally manage their network resources at scale, I simplified Lambda's experience of creating the topology and protection for their large-scale, enterprise-level network architecture.
Wow, simplifying networking at scale is no small feat. Azure Virtual Network Manager makes this easier for virtual networks in Azure because globally, across regions and subscriptions, you can centrally manage connectivity, routing policies, and security.
Speaking of security, we have a few new developments to share on confidential computing and network security. Microsoft believes confidential computing will become a necessary ingredient for all computing infrastructure.
It's definitely top of mind for customers thinking about data protection use cases in both the government and commercial spaces. As leaders in confidential computing, the focus for Azure is around running private and security-sensitive workloads and encrypting data in use.
Starting in preview is confidential computing at the application level with Intel SGX VMs and containers in Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS, that have 1,500 times the amount of encrypted memory of our previous offering. In fact, we were the first cloud provider to release Intel Ice Lake confidential computing support in preview with AKS support. Now, bringing secure containers to AKS represents just a small part of how AKS is enterprise-grade by design. And earlier this year, we became the first cloud provider to announce confidential computing capabilities on SEV-SMP. And we continue our leadership with a preview coming later this month of AMD SEV-SMP VMs and containers in AKS to lift and shift existing workloads to be confidential without changing code. And finally, today, we're also making Trusted Launch generally available for all Azure Gen 2 VMs. Trusted Launch hardens your Azure workloads with security features that protect against bootkits, rootkits, and kernel-level malware. Now, all of this innovation represents significant momentum when we think about the industry moving from computing in the clear to computing confidentially in the cloud and at the edge.
Security is at the forefront of user and administrator connectivity to cloud services. As enterprises continue to move mission-critical applications to the cloud, the need for secure, scalable, and reliable remote connectivity without exposing public IP addresses on VMs is key.
The solution to this is Azure Bastion, which becomes generally available today, making Azure the only cloud vendor offering Bastion as a native service. The fully managed JumpBox as a service provides secure RDP and SSH connectivity to VMs, deployed in any local or peered Azure Virtual Network. It extends infrastructure scale-out capabilities and provides tighter integration with Azure Monitor for alerting and monitoring capabilities. Now, I can't believe how much we've already covered. Thank you, Mary, for joining the audience and me today.
I enjoyed it, Erin. There's so much innovation coming out of the Azure team, and I can't wait to talk about this with customers and get it in their hands. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, let's look beyond traditional workloads and foundational cloud capabilities to specialized workloads, which often require infrastructure optimized to meet their specific needs. I'd like to welcome the product lead for Azure's optimized compute portfolio, Nidhi Chappell, who leads the end-to-end strategy for AI, HPC, SAP, and confidential computing. Welcome, Nidhi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nidhi. I'm a tall Indian girl, and today I'm wearing a pink cardigan, blue jeans, and some shiny shoes. It's great to be here, Erin.
Let's jump right into specialized workloads. Now, typically, these are business-critical applications that also have their own dedicated ecosystem.
When customers are considering moving their business-critical applications like SAP to cloud, they want to make sure that their cloud service provider can support the specific needs of the workloads. With our purpose-built infrastructure, Azure delivers performance that is highly tuned for these workloads at scale. We work closely with technology vendors to ensure we can showcase the very best CPUs, GPUs, and storage solutions in Azure as quickly as they become available. We want customers to benefit from the scale and elasticity of cloud without compromising on ease of use, performance, and reliability. Beyond just the infrastructure needs, we work to ensure that the entire workflow is optimized on Azure. So tasks that used to be difficult, manual, or expensive on-prem are now easier. For example, we have integrated Azure Automated Deployment and Backup into our SAP offerings, thereby streamlining development and operations for our customers. And finally, we work very closely with our ecosystem partners like SAP, VMware, to ensure we can provide the right integration and support end-to-end for these workloads.
And with these types of workloads, it goes way beyond lift and shift. So let's take a deeper look at Azure VMware Solution, which brings the VMware technology stack you've invested in and combines it with the scale, security, and ability to use Azure services.
With the recent authorization by FedRAMP, Azure VMware Solution meets the stringent security and compliance requirements needed by those handling highly sensitive private or public sector data. Security is a really important decision factor for customers. And now, Azure VMware Solution is one of the most broadly certified VMware cloud solutions. It was important for Avianca Airlines to move to the cloud with confidence because they needed to meet their market's regulatory demands while also lowering operating costs.
And customers like Avianca can take advantage of built-in security, backup, and disaster recovery capabilities, plus the cost savings from license mobility. And I'm excited we're expanding integration with Azure services. Azure Disk Pool integration for Azure VMware Solution allows you to scale Azure Disk Storage for data-intensive workloads. And now, in addition to Horizon, Azure VMware Solution supports Citrix Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. Let's take a look as Joe demos the integration of Azure Disk Pool and Jetstream Disaster Recovery, and just how easy it is to set up a disaster recovery site for Lambda's on-premises environment in Azure VMware Solution.
Hi, my name is Joe Sarabia. I'm a Hispanic male with a bushy beard and glasses and a charcoal t-shirt. I'm here to talk to you today about Azure VMware Solution, or more simply, AVS, and specifically how customers like Lambda can use AVS in their existing on-prem environment in combination with Jetstream and Run command to do DR to the cloud. So with that, let's have a look. As the IT admin at Lambda, I've logged into the on-premise vSphere environment. On the left-hand side, we see the application that we'd like to protect. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see how we've protected this using Jetstream DR using Azure Blob Storage. Now what we want to do is we want to use AVS as a DR environment for this application using Jetstream. As part of expanding our setup, I've already created an AVS private cloud for disaster recovery that you can see here. Now, an outage of our on-premise data center has occurred, and we want to recover to AVS. To make this more economical, the first thing that we're going to do is deploy a disk pool. Here I have a disk pool that I've already deployed for this purpose. Disk pools allow you to have a combination of disks, such as Premium and Standard, that you can see here. And with an iSCSI connection, it allows an AVS environment to connect to that disk pool to expand your storage independently of the storage that's provided in your Azure VMware Solution environment. Once you have a disk pool, the next step is to connect it to your AVS environment. So I'll do that by going back here, and this will connect those disks to AVS. All right, once I've connected the disk pool to AVS, the next step is going to be to deploy Jetstream inside of the private cloud environment so that we can connect it to the on-premise Jetstream deployment. To do that, I'll go back to the private cloud and click on Run command. Run command is an exciting new feature in AVS that allows customers to perform administrative tasks from directly within the credential, including deploying things like third-party software like Jetstream. So I'll go ahead and click on Install JetDR with static IP and provide the necessary parameters here to deploy this into my private cloud. After a few minutes, the Jetstream installation will complete. And here we see that it succeeded. So now I'll switch over to the vSphere client for our AVS environment to complete the configuration of Jetstream. If I click on the data center and then configure, I see the Jetstream DR plugin loaded here. So this shows me that it's installed successfully. Now that the DRVA has been deployed, the next step is going to be to add a replication log volume. Let's do that quickly. The next step after creating our replication log volume is to attach our storage site. If you remember, on premises, we're replicating to Azure Blob Storage, so now I need to connect that to the AVS side. You can see that the site has been successfully added here. And finally, if I scan the domains, here I can see the protected domain for the portal-prod application that we were protecting on our on-premise environment. Now that we can see them, the next step is going to be to recover the application. Now you can see after the failover that all the VMs that we had running in our on-premise environment are now running AVS. And so together I've shown you how you can use AVS, Jetstream, Disk Pool, and Run command to do DR of your applications to the cloud. Thanks for listening.
We just talked about optimizing VMware workloads, and I want to take a few minutes to focus on data-intensive workloads with SAS CIO Jay Upchurch. About a year ago, we announced a strategic partnership with SAS aimed at helping shape the future of analytics and AI. Well, hey, Jay, it's great to talk with you today.
Hey, Aaron, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I'm excited because over the last year, SAS have been growing its portfolio of solutions running on Azure. Could you share more on the innovations that you're bringing to market and that you think have the greatest potential to change the future of how companies embrace both analytics and AI?
Well, thank you. Well, SAS has been a leader in the advanced analytics and AI space for more than 45 years. In fact, we're very proud to be recognized as a leader in all 4 major analyst reports in this space. But we've come to know well that adopting and implementing analytics is complex and incredibly challenging. So our job here is to simplify the journey for our customers. For example, our VIA 4 platform was launched just a few months after our partnership was announced. It is cloud native, CI/CD enabled, fully containerized, microservices based, and it's fully optimized to run on Microsoft Azure. This gives our customers a modern architecture that significantly reduces time to value and is delivered on the near limitless scale of Azure. So with that deployment out of the way, our customers' experience get to focus more on exploring all the features and innovation of VIA. So for instance, we have instrumented VIA to manage the entire analytic lifecycle. That includes opening up our platforms for model development in SAS and R and Python. But analytics today is not just for the data scientists. So we also make our UI easier to use by everybody through our visualization capabilities. And we go further by demystifying modeling, by providing model explainability and making model optimization competition simple and straightforward for everybody. In fact, when we started exploring our partnership with Microsoft, the idea of analytics for everybody was a shared vision between our two companies. We knew the market was demanding data democratization, and we didn't want to just stop there. So we wanted to make the data and the systems used to let the data tell a story available to anyone and anywhere at any time.
Now, one of the things that's exciting is the global data center coverage that SAS have been able to achieve through our collaboration. I heard you set up 12 data centers to service your core market around the world.
Well, first of all, customer response has been absolutely outstanding. We're also really proud of that rollout. You mentioned 12 data centers. We were able to stand those up lightning fast, and along the way reimagine a lot of our leverage services, right, that are required to instantiate one of those instances. So that footprint that Azure gives us is incredibly important as well, because it extends our capability out into the territories where our customers operate. That gives us the chance to service them much more locally in the markets that they care most about. I'd also point out that customer response has been really strong at both the platform level and at the industry solution level. SAS provides both. VIA, for instance, is our incredibly robust analytics platform that can meet the needs of anybody. But we recognize not everyone wants to build their own. So years ago, SAS started to invest in industry-specific business outcome solutions like in fraud and risk and retail and IoT and health and life sciences. In fact, our industry solutions is one of the fastest growing areas of our business today.
And Jay, one of the things that really excites me about working together is the opportunity to combine the power of our portfolios. You have this deep SaaS technology integration, and then it's not just Azure, but it's the Microsoft Cloud. Could you share an example of this in action?
Yeah, sure. So let me start with my own story. I get the honor of running internal IT for SAS in addition to our SAS cloud business. So I've got 14,000 employees that are enjoying the Microsoft 365 platform and all the security that comes along with that. We just launched our partner portal on Dynamics. And then in Azure, right, it's been a wonderful story of us evaluating our enterprise solutions that are running in our own data center today, refactoring those, thinking about how to deploy those in a native way on the cloud, taking advantage of the native capabilities in Azure. So refactoring data access, identity access management, thinking about leveraging AKS and how we can move these applications up into a more modern footprint. One other one that I touch on is another customer example, and that's AEG. AEG is the industry leader in sports entertainment. 22,000 events with 160 million guests every year. And when COVID hit, like all of us, right, their business kind of came to a halt. They had to figure out what does this mean to us? And so they kind of future-proofed the answer by pulling in Microsoft and SAS as partners to help them solve that answer. So deploying SAS in Azure, and then thinking about the questions that were faced that faced their business. So when would guests arrive? What would that guest experience look like? Would guests feel safe again once they're back? And then how do you model the planned event for 100,000 people with the uncertainty of the COVID circumstances that are all around us? It's a wonderful story of where data and gaming and innovation all came together.
I think your example highlights just how pervasive the transformation is that's happening. I truly appreciate you joining us and sharing your insights, not only for SAS as an organization itself, but also how that is impacting customers.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to be a part of Ignite. We've got a wonderful 45-year history here at SAS, but we are super excited about the future and, of course, our game-changing partnership. Thank you.
As Jay mentioned, with the uncertainty driven by COVID, being able to support data-intensive workloads can help a business respond and thrive. Jellyfish Pictures' story shows how cloud can help address these data-intensive workloads. They are an Emmy-winning animation and visual effects studio, and they embrace the power of cloud infrastructure as a game changer. You may recognize their work in many successful TV series and films. When COVID hit, they turned to Azure to give their artists secure, remote access to high-performance computing. They were able to scale to 90,000 cores quickly at 80% lower rendering cost using a combination of VMware, spot pricing, and better storage management. Their use of VMs to render amazing visual effects and animation sequences illustrates the point of how cloud can deliver cost-effective power needed at the moment for all the data-intensive work.
Let's talk about some of the workloads that require complex file-based infrastructure, SAP, for example. Of course, you can migrate and run these workloads in the cloud, but to make it worthwhile, you really need a shared file storage service with high performance and low latency.
Very true. In working with partner NetApp, we have created Azure NetApp Files, which makes it super easy to migrate and run complex, performance-intensive, latency-sensitive applications with no code change.
Azure NetApp Files is quite unique. It's the only cloud file service certified to run SAP HANA workloads because you get the same experience in cloud as you would on premises. Let's go to Andrew, who'll demo how easy it is to deploy and protect Lambda's mission-critical SAP HANA workloads using Azure NetApp Files and Azure Storage.
Hello, my name is Andrew Chen. I'm an Asian male wearing a gray sweater. Lambda's SAP HANA databases are used for our most mission-critical workloads, and we cannot afford to take any downtime, even for mission-critical operations like backing up our data or resizing resources to meet our ever-changing demand. We use Azure NetApp Files for our scale-out deployments and Ultradisks for our scale-up deployments because they provide the high-performance, low-latency, and enterprise capabilities that we need. Let me go ahead and start diving in. I'll first demonstrate using Azure NetApp Files and the Azure Application Consistent Snapshot tool to seamlessly back up a running database. The tool initiates a fully automated and integrated backup, where the database state is coordinated with the storage snapshot. It provides performant, database-consistent, point-in-time protection that can be used for recovery, system refreshes, dev test QA, and troubleshooting. Now that the backup is completed, through the integration with the SAP HANA Studio Backup Catalog, I can immediately see the status of the snapshot and manage existing snapshots. The snapshots are extremely space efficient, storing only incrementally changed data and take place rapidly, regardless of the database's size. What used to take hours with traditional file-based backup methods, I've now done in about 90 seconds with a single command. In scale-up environments, we take advantage of Ultradisk to achieve high performance on a single disk. This eliminates the need for striping, lowering my management overhead. I can also easily adjust the performance while the disk is running, allowing me to burst as needed or reduce costs without taking any downtime. I'll demonstrate this by using FIO. So you can see here currently the I/O pattern going against that disk. I have the flexibility to set capacity, IOPS, and throughput separately on this disk based on my workload's needs. And with just a few clicks, I've adjusted this disk to give me higher performance on demand. And it's that easy. With just a few clicks, that same disk now supports higher throughput and IOPS, all while continually serving I/O and being available for my mission-critical needs. Thank you for listening.
Azure NetApp Files combines several of Azure's best-in-class bare metal capabilities, like networking and service management, and brings that together with NetApp's industry-leading file storage on-tap capabilities. This is emblematic of Azure's best-in-class capabilities, and we're applying the same best-in-class thinking to our programs and resources for customers.
For example, we've created the Azure Migration and Modernization Program to help simplify and accelerate your cloud migration. It combines free migration tools and resources with the best practices and expert help. Today, we're announcing expanded and new supported scenarios for the program. First, available today, we'll have support for SAP Lift and Shift and SAP HANA deployments. And coming soon, we'll have a guidance and deployment assistance for Azure Security Center and Defender, as well as for Azure Arc.
Thousands of customers have already used the program to migrate and modernize applications, databases, and infrastructure on Azure successfully. And while application migration is prevalent today, the future of computing is moving towards modern, containerized, low-code, anything-as-a-service, where cloud-native applications become catalysts for transformational impact.
A good example of a cloud-native application comes from Amadeus. They're the biggest global distribution system for the travel and airline industry. In fact, chances are most of us have used Amadeus solutions when we searched for the best flight options for a trip. Their service receives millions of requests per day and must provide high level of performance to deliver results within a sub-second response time. Through our partnership, Amadeus is not only accelerating their shift to public cloud, but they are also collaborating with Microsoft to enable faster delivery of new cloud-based solutions that will lead to more seamless travel experiences.
Azure's open and flexible platform is ideal for building and supporting these cloud-native apps. Specifically, customers can deploy and manage containerized modern apps using Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS, which offers serverless Kubernetes, an integrated CI/CD experience, enterprise-grade security, and governance. AKS is one of the fastest-growing services on Azure and brings development and operations into a single platform. Now, the next logical extension many modern apps leverage is AI.
Volocopter is an excellent example of this. They're a pioneer in providing air taxi and drone services in urban environments. They're building a modern software platform called VoloIQ. Using Azure infrastructure and AI services, VoloIQ will fully integrate with smart cities, existing mobility operations to provide real-time visibility across a complex ecosystem.
Now, I know they want to do this on a global scale, so they need that ability to scale up securely and efficiently. To hear more about how you can build modern applications on Azure, make sure you join the Microsoft Into Focus Digital Apps and Innovation session tomorrow.
The stories we shared about Volocopter, American Cancer Society, and Jellyfish Pictures represent 3 companies with 3 different paths to cloud for their specific workload requirements. What's common is they are all using cloud to transform business and to achieve something amazing.
Chances are you're adopting cloud in similar ways, whether traditional lift and shift, optimizing business-critical specialized applications, or creating and supporting modern cloud-native apps. Across hybrid, multi-cloud, and the edge, you're empowering transformation. Now, it's been wonderful to spend the time with you today, sharing the latest Azure innovations. Check out our product blogs for details on the new capabilities from today. And for even more, register for Azure IaaS Day, which takes place November 17th. This free online event goes deep into Azure infrastructure with lots of demos and experts on hand. And for the latest Azure innovations for hybrid and multi-cloud, watch the dedicated breakout session. As we wrap, thank you, Nidhi, for joining me.
Thank you, Erin, for this opportunity. Like Mary said, I'm really excited to see all the innovation coming from Azure and how our customers tend to use this.
And thanks to all the demo teams, to Jay at SAS, and to Mary. Have a great Microsoft Ignite, and I hope to see you at Azure IaaS Day.